Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to my channel, Nellie the Narcissist. Now I'm not a narcissist, but Nellie is. And if you don't know that character, then please do check out my comedy skits. It's a big part of what I do on this channel. It's what makes me different. So I'm going to link all of that in the video description. And in these podcasts, I work with both the psychological as well as the spiritual dimensions of narcissistic abuse, NPD, because I believe that this is incredibly important, especially if you dealt with a malignant narcissist, since it is a spiritual battle. And it's important to know that and really get to grips with what you were in. And I hope that the spiritual aspects that I discuss are very validating. And in this episode today, I'm going to really get personal, as I often do, and I reflect my own experiences a lot in order to help others. In this video today, I want to speak about why narcissists absolutely hate empaths. Because they really do. And the only reason that I realized that was through the malignant narcissist that I became entangled with. For many, many years, I didn't know that I was an empath. Now, I may have actually described myself as one, but I didn't really know the impact or the true significance of what that was in my life. I just thought I was overly sensitive or maybe an introvert. And it was problematic in a number of ways, and I'm going to discuss that a little bit later, but I knew that I could feel the feelings of others very strongly, and I was prone to carrying the weight and wounds of others, particularly inside intimate relationships. But interestingly, it was actually the narcissist that self-reflected to me the fact that I was an empath, because the narcissist knew it kind of before I did. And by the way, that narcissist hated empaths, which is why I found this very interesting on a number of levels, especially on the spiritual, because this malignant narcissist wanted to be near me, and yet I recognized what a deep contempt was truly held for me and who I am on a core level. So following my own studies of such a dark character, I want to share with you what I've learned from the inside, from being close to that darkness and from being dismantled by it. And basically I had an attempted assassination on me, which led me to seeing it very clearly for what it is. And I hope that there is obviously something for everybody in this video, because I think that studying and being so close to this kind of darkness can be very illuminating. So if you resonate with today's video, please help me to spread the message so more people may know of this subject by liking, sharing, and commenting your thoughts down below, because all of these little gestures, they really do help me to be seen more by the YouTube algorithm. And if this is your first time visiting today, then please do consider subscribing to the channel. And for anybody that hasn't hit that bell, then please do hit the bell, and then you're going to be notified every time I make a post and you won't miss anything. So let's start with a personal story of mine. When I was with the narcissist, I never once said that I was an empath. You know, it was a subject that we'd never discussed. It never come up in conversation, never. One day then, many months on, the narcissist out of the blue and without any context started talking about empaths and was speaking with total contempt and rising agitation, and told me a story that if somebody were to fall in the water and start drowning, then you could not rely upon an empath to jump in and save them, because empaths are weak and pathetic and scared. But the narcissist declared that you could rely upon a psychopath, because the psychopath would save the person from drowning, because psychopaths are fearless and courageous and better than empaths. Now, this did not strike me as a regular kind of conversation. In fact, I recognize quite rightfully that this speech was largely and actually solely a confession, because this speech came out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere, but I understood that it came out the narcissist's psyche. This was coming from a core belief, and obviously it was a belief that caused the narcissist a lot of anger, because the narcissist was very agitated, and this was revealed through the story. And I understood one more thing whilst there in that moment. First, you know, the narcissist really had this thing against empaths. And later, I understood that this was a psychopath confessing who they were. It was very weird, and many things that these malignant narcissists, you know, seem to blurt out and say are truth, because there are a lot of truths that seem to come out in this particular way when you least expect them. So watch out for those kind of things. That's a red flag. And then very much later, when I'd kind of forgotten about this particular moment, something happened, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but the narcissist, very honestly, with a deep understanding of my energy, said to me one day, "You're not a simple empath. You're a hyper sensitive empath." And this again came out of nowhere. It wasn't something that we were discussing. And I knew, though, that this was a kind of truth that was being reflected to me. And it was strange because up until that point, empath had never been mentioned in our entanglement. And the narcissist had only ever, that one time, showed real contempt for empaths. And suddenly, I was becoming aware that the narcissist saw me as an empath, but not just any empath. What does all of this mean? When the narcissist said it to me, I knew that it was truth, but I'd never had anybody reflect that in such a deep and meaningful way before. It was pure truth of what was being seen. And again, it wasn't until I started to join all of this up, as we are tasked after these relationships, or entanglements, as I like to say, we have to put all of these pieces together and join the dots of this picture. And I made a comedy skit about this. I'm going to link it down below. So despite we had never spoken about empaths at all, it wasn't even on my radar at the time, like narcissist wasn't on my radar, I realized that the narcissist had known all along and seen me as an empath. And then I remembered that hatred and the disgust that the same narcissist had about empaths previously. And it became clear that the agitation that day had been about me. I hadn't done anything, you know. I was acting as perfect supply to the narcissist, and I was fulfilling my service role quite naturally. But I was hated, and this emerged towards the end, just how deeply, hated I was, for no other reason than who I was. Now, of course, this happens to everybody in close relationships, because narcissists, they don't like anyone. And the closer that you are, the worse that they hate you. But what I understood is just how much narcissists have got it in for empaths. They really hate them. And that's when, with curiosity, I started to unpick this, because it is strange and stupid in many ways, because there is no supply in the world for narcissists like an empath's fuel. It's like premium gasoline. They love it so much. This is the perfect person for them to sink their vampire teeth into and to drain. And they don't like giving it up. So it is very strange, that feeling when you know that somebody needs you so much, but at the same time, they hate you so much for who you are. Shouldn't you love the person that gives you what you want and need? If you're a normal person, if you're healthy, then of course, that is totally true. But narcissists, they hate empaths so much because the moment that they start becoming dependent on your supply, I believe it causes them a huge narcissistic injury, because it amplifies their vulnerability. And we all know that narcissists hate any shred of vulnerability. It's a no-no, because vulnerability is weakness in their mind. It's too human. It's far too human. Remember, they've turned away from their humanity. They don't want to be fully human. Their narcissism is cloaking and shrouding them, and it appears to be some kind of protection, and it protects in the only sense that they never truly connect with people on any kind of intimate level, because they can't. And so they don't ever feel pain from love because they can't love, and they don't ever access those kinds of states because they're too high vibrational for them. But here is the problem. They do feel the pain of having an extremely fragile pride and ego. And you know that saying, pride and ego before a fall. So I'd like to share with you my own journey to my full awareness that I was an empath, because it was a very important part of my journey. And I came to a huge realization much later in life. I think I was probably around 35, when I discovered that the majority of the feelings that I'd ever felt throughout my life were not actually my own. Now that might sound strange, But it was a breakthrough moment, for me, that suddenly made so much of my life make sense. I could never understand why I felt certain things. I was kind of messed up. I was like, why am I feeling this? I don't understand. Where's this coming from? And I could never understand why I felt certain things so intensely, sadness, anger, even anxiety, seemingly out of nowhere. And I used to think that I was moody or emotional or a bit erratic. But the truth is, I was absorbing the emotions of the people around me. I had no filter, no boundary between where they ended and where I began. And this is the essence of what it means really for me to be an empath. It's not just being sensitive in the casual way people often mean. It's an energetic sensitivity. Empaths are emotional sponges. We unconsciously absorb other people's moods and wounds and intentions, even when they're hidden. Now, I started to notice this more acutely when I was working in a media agency in my early career, because the office was open plan, and every time that I walked onto that floor to start work, it was like getting hit with a wall of energy. And I absolutely dreaded it. It was loud, it was chaotic, and it was overstimulating. But it wasn't just the noise, it was the people. I could feel them. And the longer that I was there, the more drained and more irritated that I became. And it was sensory, and it was like emotional overload. I realized that I need space, I need silence and nature and animals. That's how I regulate and reset. Not because I'm antisocial. I actually really enjoy people, but because every interaction is an energetic transaction. When you're an empath, you're always in that. So most people don't realize this. They can walk into a room, talk to a group of people, walk out and be kind of untouched. But empaths, we carry it, we tune in whether we want to or not. It's like having the volume turned up too loud on life. And once I recognized this about myself, it helped me a great deal to be able to know what I needed, and stop feeling guilty about me being too sensitive or needing time by myself. But once I realized I was an empath, so many then of my past relationships, especially with narcissists, started to make perfect sense. Because narcissists are magnetically drawn to empaths. And why? Because we feel everything. We are emotionally available. We are intuitively aware and naturally inclined to heal, to understand, to connect deeply. And they do look for people who can feel for them what they can't feel for themselves. And it's not that they admire sensitivity. They want to consume it. They want to be near your light, not because they love it, but because they need it. And over time, they're going to try to steal it and manipulate it and destroy it. I'm going to read to you a quote from the Bible. Everyone that does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. And that's John chapter 3, verse 20. When you're an empath, your presence alone becomes then a mirror. Narcissists, they can't tolerate that for very long, not without either trying to break the mirror or use it for their own reflection, basically. And that's what makes the dynamic so painful and confusing, in my opinion, because they're drawn to what they despise. Really, the biggest reason that I am aware that narcissists absolutely hate empaths comes down to one of the nasty afflictions, basically, that narcissists are cursed with, which is extreme jealousy. And if you're an empath in a relationship with a narcissist, this can be a very bizarre concept as well, because narcissists will trash you and take you to the point of almost complete destruction. They're going to drive you to the edge of the cliff and try to push you off of it or get you to jump off of it. But before it gets to that point, the narcissist would have got you basically to jump through hoops for them. And an empath will be trained in service and is really amazing supply to a narcissist, because they do usually go the extra mile, just like the premium gasoline, like I said. Empaths can be trained very well to fuel a narcissist, because empaths really tune into them and their needs and are naturally very generous, will often give by nature without any, thought of needing to receive themselves. And this can be at times very altruistic and beautiful, by the way, but really not when you're with a narcissist, because they will exploit everything. Empaths are also very tuned to wanting to enhance the lives of others. And we can totally be emotionally manipulated far more easily. And we are generally, looking and finding the very best in others. And we're very forgiving. So team some premium fuel with all the characteristics that narcissists need that are completely complementary opposite to them, because they need a giver and they need somebody who will forgive them. They need someone that can be emotionally manipulated, that feels and cares about the feelings and the needs of others, and who are not counting the energy that they give, that don't need that much in return, are loyal also, and see the best in others. Empaths are like Happy Meals on legs. That's a wink to all of the Buffy fans watching. So an empath can easily be trained and manipulated to serving a narcissist in the best possible way. And as time goes on, you will know how inferior they're going to make you. And not only inferior, but this trashing and this eroding of your identity. You're trained to serve. That's it, You probably won't even think for a second that a large drive of the narcissist's wipeout of you is based upon their innate and intense jealousy that they have for your soul and your energy. It's the last thing that you probably think, because they keep it very well hidden. They hide it by giving you the complete opposite false impression that you're nothing and you're no one. And they're driven to do this because they're so dependent upon you. And although they should love you for what you give, they hate you for it. They would completely red rum you for it without hesitation, because next to you, they feel weak. Next to you, they feel pathetic. This is the paradox. Although your energy makes them much larger than life, and they get fat off of the land in which they are raping and taking without replanting, next to you, they also feel inferior. And that's the secret that they don't want you to know. So if they get you to behave inferior and buy into their lie, then it helps them to believe it. Although deep down, of course, they know that they need you and they wish that they didn't. And they know that you don't need them. And that's why they have to do all of what they do and use this witchcraft to tie you, or whatever practical means that they have to bind you, because they need to keep hold of you for their own power and identity. Because there's the narcissist considering themselves to be so omnipotent and above everything and everyone, thinking that they're detached and independent, because in many ways they are, I guess, because they don't care about anyone apart from themselves. So they are free in that way to be selfish and pursue selfish aims and desires. But when they find those sources of amazing supply, which I've often found to be an empath, then they love it like crazy. But then some invisible to the naked eye anxiety and insecurities set in, because they're needy and they're dependent upon your energy and presence that feeds them on a daily basis. And this alone is a big threat to their narcissism. And it makes them feel less omnipotent. And this sets off intense hatred and jealousy. How dare you do that? You have something that they don't have. And they need you for this. And it's in your possession, it's not in theirs, which is why they try so hard to get control over you for that commodity. They don't want to live in need of anybody. And yet being a narcissist means that they do have a big need of people more than the average person. It's life or death for them. And what brings energy and shine to people? It's the light within you, it's love. This is totally divine. And this is what is life. Giving and energy creating. You can feel the aura of somebody that is full of this light. It's radiating, it's beautiful. And it's positive energy, that's what it is. Whereas when I imagine the energy field of a narcissist, when you can feel them, when the mask is off, it's heavy, it's icky, it's draining, it's purely negative. narcissists, they can't get away from this fact that they're negative energies, and they can hide it as much as they want behind the mask, but the truth always comes to the surface eventually. Light is life-giving, and this dark energy is life-draining. And so a negative as pure as this needs to find not only a positive, but the most positive that they can find and plug into it. They need that for their life. But what happens is they're so negative that the empath who's very positive will get drained and get sick, because our lives and our energy systems were never designed to be carrying parasites. An empath will be the sustenance of a narcissist diet, and no parasite has any kind of respect for their host. And like I said, they really hate us because we are so needed, and they're jealous that we have this energy that they don't have. We have this battery charge that they don't have, and they believe that they should be the ones with this kind of power. And so they envy, and they want to take it from us. They want to steal it away. They want to rob it from you. They want to rob what's yours. They don't want you having something of value that they don't have. But then they know that by nature you do have way more than them. A covert narcissist is going to go about covert ways to try to steal as much of it as possible from you. An overt narcissist is going to be more clear about it because they got the money and they got the power to get it from you, in other ways. And most importantly, if the narcissist is malignant and they have these lower level entity attachments, as they so often do, then make no mistake, the basis of any relationship with a narcissist is spiritual warfare. If you are light and they are dark, remember, the more extreme you both are, you holding more light and they with more dark, this will be even more of an epic battle, because they'll be determined to take you down and make you theirs, because they hate the light within you. They can't stand it. It triggers them. Love triggers them. And these are all high energies that they cannot bear to feel. Even though they target positive people, they seek to make us very negative. They attack our light within because it offends them. That's the biggest takeaway here. Your light offends them, no matter how much they pretend the opposite, that you aren't enough for them. And you could never possibly compare to them or live up to their superiority. But this is all a front, because next to you, they are inferior. And by trashing you and having contempt for you, they're attacking the light that they know is within you, because that offends them so deeply. Remember, spiritually, they are in cahoots with dark forces. And those entities are working through the narcissist as well. And many times the narcissist is aware of this fact, which may be shocking to a few of you, but they do often know what's what and who's who. And when I realized this level, I knew that I had been targeted spiritually, because this was warfare. And the narcissists are going to try to fling everything and anything at you to try to disarm you and bring you down, because their team working with and through them are so offended by who you are as a being of light and a child of God. So they need your fuel because it's so positive, but they hate your light because it's a threat to them. And it's all controlled by fear, because narcissists and these entities are actually afraid of your light within and the connection that you have to the divine source, which is why they try so hard to break it and break you. They don't want you on higher levels. They don't want you ascending. They want to keep you tied and bound to lower levels, because that way you got no escape. They've got you where they want you, and this is where they want to keep you. This brings them absolute delight, because they've obscured the light within you and they've covered your eyes with a blindfold so that you too may know only darkness. It's their wish that you never realize the truth, basically, of who you are, because they hope that they would have got to you beforehand and done their number, so you never ever realize that you belong on far greater heights than what they're on, and that you never understand that they are no more than just a parasite of your life and your energy. And that's when I really began to understand, not just intellectually but spiritually, that this wasn't just psychological abuse, it was spiritual warfare. The narcissist wasn't only threatened by me as a person. They were offended by the light within me, because that light exposes the darkness. And I got another quote here. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And that's from John chapter 1, verse 5. When you are a child of light, then darkness will try to silence you and corrupt you and diminish you or possess what you have. But it can never fully be overcome. That true light cannot be overcome. That's not just a comfort. It is a spiritual law. Now, Carl Jung actually said, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. And it's not necessarily your shadow. It's often how narcissists and dark energies are magnetized towards you. The brighter your light, potentially, the darker the one that you could attract. But it's not a sign of your weakness. It's actually a sign of strength. And isn't it ironic that narcissists hate the light, and yet they're also drawn to it? Not for its beauty, not for its truth, but to consume it. They don't come to admire who you are. They come to feed off of it, to drain you. This isn't reverence, it's theft. And it's spiritual vampirism. So if you have ever found yourself, asking, why did they treat me like that when I gave them absolutely everything? I hope that this episode has offered a deeper understanding. And it's not your weakness that they were attacking. It was your light. It was your depth. It was your sensitivity. It was that sacred energy that they could not bear. So I hope that this episode has been helpful to you. If it has, then please do like it, share it. Drop me a comment below if you resonate. For now, thank you all so much for watching. Take care. Sending love. I will see you all again next week.